This is Geek, and I'm Dan, and this is my 2019 State of the Workshop video. Kind of a workshop tour. I say 2019, but it's the first one I've ever done. But I thought it would be a good time, start of the year, have a bit of a look round, see what I've done in the last year, talk a little about what I've been doing in the last couple of weeks, try and get this thing under control, and maybe about some plans for the future. So, let's take a look around. Easily, the most significant thing I did in the last year was have these new garage doors fitted. Previously this was an up and over door that obviously then dictated a lot of space kind of on the side walls for rails and such, and it wasn't very sealed. This is beautiful steel construction. It's a complete tight seal all the way around, which makes this a much nicer space inside generally. You can open each half independently, and obviously you've seen there's the inset door. This is awesome because that means that if I bring stuff home in the car, I can bring it straight into the garage, whereas previously I had to come kind of in through the front of the house and such because I had everything set up so the up and over door wasn't really viable. Previously the up and over door, I kind of wasn't very confident about using it because I had things in the way, so this kind of makes the door usable without me having to sacrifice any space on the inside. Putting these in place caused me to move some other stuff around. I previously had my CNC machine about here. It is now over here. This is now the back corner, far side from those new doors. CNC machine with its control unit tucked away in the corner up against the shelves. Quite happy with this location. I don't really need that much access to that side, and so I can kind of put some of the stuff that gets less access use, old paint tins, all that kind of stuff, in that back corner, but still have access to the CNC machine as much as I need it to. Dartboard in the back isn't getting that much use these days. It's not so easy, but it can use it if I really need to unwind. Way back here, shelves of stuff I don't use very often. It doesn't matter that I can't get to them as easily, but I can get all the way around the CNC machine to set up parts. All my bit storage is back here at the moment. It's a little bit tight, but that's perfect for this kind of a machine. This machine sits across the way from the lathe. Last year I put the lathe on a new structure that in theory lets me wheel it around if I need to. I can kind of prop it up on some rollers. But actually this has ended up being quite a nice spot. It's quite nice for filming because I can put the camera on that side whilst I'm working on this side. And I've used it a fair bit more in the last few months than I had before that. Behind the lathe we have a couple of workbenches that I did build, I think, at the beginning of last year. Mostly wood storage down below, grinding station, do have this jigsaw which I hardly ever use, spray cans, etc. and some amount of French cleat to hold random stuff. Just during the last week I've been using the 3D printer to print up a bunch of these plastic hooks which are perfect for hanging all of these spray cans on. I need to print some more. I've still got a bunch in a box somewhere. I think it's going to be nice to have them out where I can sort of see them and be reminded that I do actually have various colours. That's awesome. So moving around from this back corner, get into cutting and sanding tools. Another recent addition in the last week, I put these two shelves up. They weren't there before. This has helped me put a bit more storage away. I also created a little undershelf storage for the belts, for the belt sander. Thinking of things for the following year, I don't really like the belt sander here. It's sort of tucked away on top of an old shelf unit. I want to probably put that on something that is a little easier to move around so I can get out when I need to. But at the moment, belt sander, chop saw, dust vac, cyclone, all kind of fits neatly in this space, and at least this and this are on wheels so I can move them around. Another 3D printed edition, a couple of undershelf hangers for the protective masks. Previously these just kind of ended up hooked on whatever random thing I could find around the workshop, and I was always trying to remember where I put them, so it's nice to have somewhere specific for those to live. Moving up further along this way, we have bandsaw, bigger dust extractor. I do have the small planer thicknesser down here. That's another thing that I want to change in the next year. This is on like a little trolley. I want to build a proper unit for that. Bandsaw hasn't really moved since I put it here. I think I quite like this space. The height of the bandsaw table is hopefully around about the same height as the chop saw, so I can use them as sort of each other's in-feed, out-feed when I need to. This is probably the heaviest piece of equipment in the workshop at the moment, and it's not really on anything convenient to move it, so it's pretty much staying here. I have for a long time had the idea that I want to kind of make some kind of heavy metal like base that can be propped up onto wheels. Have not got around to that yet, but for now this will do. As we have moved around the shop, the idea is that we transition from predominantly woodworking type stuff around to metalworking. So here at the moment we have a great big open space, which I have not not had here before, but I have been kind of working on trying to make more space in here as I tidy up. At the moment we have pillar drill over here with nice new cross sled vise. Thank you, Mother, for Christmas present. This obviously can be wood or metal, but I do end up doing quite a lot of drilling through metal with this at the moment. And certainly I'm sort of seeing it as a transitional tool as we sweep around to the welding table. What I might do is move this back into this gap in order to provide a bit more space for the plenty of thickness to come out, but that does kind of break my whole idea of more of a wood to metal transition. We'll see how I think about that later in the year. Another 3D printed element from the last couple of days, under shelf hangers. The idea of these, I'm going to print another pair, but they will hold a couple of things just underneath the shelf like that when they're done. And here we sweep around back to the door of the outside welding table. This is where the big vise is mounted. I have my MIG welder under here, angle grinder, Dremel, etc. Things that are likely to more make sparks. I'm trying to keep as much as possible separated into this side of the room. Thinking again for the future, I do have a crazy desire to buy myself a metal lathe. It's been on the list for a while. That's probably what that space that I just made is going to be used for. But I guess I have a few other projects to do first. I also tidied up inside the welding cart. As I was printing these hangers for the spray cans, I realised they would also fit the gas cylinders for the MIG welder. So I quickly added a bracket across the back, screwed a wooden panel, gave myself a nice rack. That's tidied up this whole space and made them a little bit more easy to move around. A somewhat older shop tidying thing that I did, but one that has really proved useful over the time I've had it, is the welding stool. It is a little bit narrow, so it's not the most stable thing in the world, but I put a hook on one side for the welding helmet and some hooks on the other side for the welding gauntlets, so they're always right by my side and they have a place to live. Behind the welding table, metal cutting bandsaw currently set up here. I don't know whether this will be the long-term home. It's not super convenient for cutting long stock here. And I am working on probably a vertical stand for the bandsaw as well. But for now, this is as good a place as any to put that. Plus, this is where some of the more storage of random cases of big drills and such lives. Fridge isn't going anywhere. This was a new new addition this year. Dust extractor. This is quite a good position for it. Blows air that way and sucks it this way. I have another fan actually over here to try and help circulate air when I need to. That has been a good addition for just generally trying to keep the air in here cleaner when I'm making dust. Above the bandsaw and the fridge and the dust extractor, this year I made a couple of big brackets to put some of the really long stock, long items. I've got my long spirit levels, all the long stock stuff that I have in mostly wood up over here. This was quite a space saver compared to keeping it otherwise. This was otherwise dead space. I actually created this whilst I still had the up and over door, so it's all designed to be just inside of where that was going. Now I could potentially bring it out, extend it a little bit further. We'll see whether that's necessary next year. Which brings us back to the centre of the room. This is another very recent change. This is my table saw, homemade table saw. There is a saw mounted beneath here that levers up. It's not brilliant, but it certainly gets the job done for breaking down sheet stock quite well. This was for a long time back over by the door, and I used to have a more serious workbench with a vise. Yesterday I kind of turned the table saw into the table saw stroke main workbench. I attached my main vise here to the side, stiffened the whole thing up a bit so that it's got a little bit more rigidity. It is on wheels though, so there's a little bit of that to it. But this is going to end up being my main working kind of flat surface. It's got a load of storage on the inside, and I put a small French cleat on this side, so when I do bring stuff down off the wall, I have a place that's not on the work surface to hang things. Behind the workbench, towards the door back into the house, we have bins, recycling and regular, and of course my trusty tool carrier. This was a couple of years ago. An enormous amount of the hand tools that I use go on this cart, which has been a real boon to my very untidy tendencies. Having somewhere specific to put things back really helps a lot. The last improvement probably worth talking about is the lights. I installed those again. I'm pretty sure that was sort of early last year. They made a massive difference to how bright it is in here. Previously had a couple of fluorescents that were both not as bright, and they also do that kind of, takes a little while to both flicker on and then it takes a while to warm up. These are amazing, they're instant, they're bright, it makes much nicer working environment here. That was a fab thing to do. I think that's probably it for State of the Workshop 2019. A little bit of whistle-stop tour around. The main things I'm still trying to do is just get rid of any stock that I don't really need, sort of give things as much as possible a home, and try to justify to myself making space for new tools, of course. Anyway, if you have any great suggestions for workshop tidying stuff, please let me know in the comments. Otherwise, thanks for watching. See you next time.